A lot of designers, especially those coming from Photoshop, use Figma to create and design marketing materials like banner, hero graphics, or promo teasers. And they do these designs in a way that they would do within the Photoshop. Fixed positioning, no auto layout, and no complex logic that can control the design itself. They look great until you try to change one small piece of your design. Then the whole design is going to get broken very, very easily. Actually, I ran into this problem a while ago when I was working on a project which the team was responsible of creating different marketing materials for a brand for their specific campaign. Team decided to use Figma because we wanted to manage all the marketing materials that we're going to use in different channels that the campaign was running in. One of the tasks that I had was to adjust some small minor feedback that we got from the client within the visuals that we had and designed before. So I had to pick up the design that we had and do the adjustment. When I started to do that, I immediately realized that everything within the Figma file has been designed like we might do within the Photoshop. There were a lot of groups instead of frame, and many places the structure and the hierarchy of the layers weren't so well designed. The constraint has been not used in order to pin the items to different places. The other stuff that we're going to see today actually into this video, because I brought one of those visuals with me. I want to show you what was the problem there actually, and then we're going to see how we can solve this stuff and create more scalable solution that we can reuse it later on to create different stuff without having to spend a lot of time. So bear with me until the end of this video if you're interested into this topic, and I would like to ask you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done it yet, and if you're new here in this channel. Don't forget also to like this video and share it with the designers that you might think this video is going to help them as well. Now without further ado, let's get it started. This is the design that I was talking with you about it. I have changed the product itself and the logo and in general the brand to keep the identity of the client safe. So beside the brand, everything else within the design is exactly the same thing that I found it in the Figma file that the team was working, especially the layout and the structure of the element that exists within this design. Position and everything was exactly the same thing, and we had also this badge on top. The design itself is very clean, the layout is very balanced, and everything looks good actually. My task was to reuse the same design for different elements that we had in the web page, for example a carousel or the hero section of a different email that we had. Therefore I had to do some resizing. Plus the next task was to recreate the same thing for different products. For the resizing purpose, if I take this frame and select it and I start to resize it in a horizontal or in vertical orientation, you can see that the design is immediately getting broken. And if you check the auto layout section, you can see that there were no auto layout whatsoever applied in this frame. Plus I had to change the content, as I said. So for example, if I wanted to change the text here, it was not possible because I realized that we are using the vector shapes, which might be a smart kind of choice. However, in this case was making my job difficult because I had to also create the text and convert it in a vector shape and then replace it here. So there were no text layer that I can change the text immediately here. Plus, some of the text, like this one, for example, the price, if I change it, you can see that because there were no auto layer whatsoever, the design was going to get broken. So the design wasn't really adjusted itself based on the content within that element. In addition, if we take a look at the layer section here, we can see that we are using grouping instead of frame and auto layout to kind of collect the stuff together and group them together, which was also some problem for me personally. For example, here in this case, we had one rectangle shape and price, the tag and everything else was on top of this rectangle shape, and all together were grouped together and there were no frame or something like that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this design here on the left side, copy it here, and try to remake this stuff. But this time I would like to try to use frames and apply the auto layout on them and use the other properties in order to create more logical layout that we can have more control on the stuff. So let me start with the text first of all, because it's bothering me a lot. I would like to change this vector shape to the text layer. So I'm going to pick up the text tool here and write down the same text there. So same flavor. I would like to use 2 separate text layers for each line. In this way, I would be able to create the same effect like here we have, for example. You can see that the first line has a smaller size than the second one, to keep the both text aligned with each other. So I would like to create also 2 text lines that the author or the person who is working on the content can have control on the size of the text and manually can adjust the size in a way that they kind of get aligned with each other. Unfortunately, there are no such a thing that we can handle automatically within the Figma that, for example, dynamically change the size of the font based on the space that exists within our layout. So we have to kind of trick this ourselves. So we have the first text layer. I'm going to change the font kind of to something that is more similar to what we have in the final design. I might not have the exact same design, same font, but I will try to find something similar. I guess this is kind of matching the most with the font that we have in the reference. Let's open the advanced setting or type setting here for the font. And here I would like to change the case type to uppercase. And yes, let's scale it up to a little bit bigger. It doesn't matter actually what is the font size at the moment. We can adjust it later. Let's duplicate it, make a second text layer. And here in the second text layer, first of all, let's change the flavor dictation. It was a typo there. But yeah, in the second line, we will have a 0 sugar text. And you can already see that they are not aligning with each other. So therefore, we have to select the second text layer and manually change the size to something bigger. This is one way, or we can use the font size, as you can see, to do the alignment actually in the optical way. Okay, great. We have this 2 text layer. I'm going to select them one more time. And okay, it's difficult to select because we have one gradient here, which is covering the text layer. I'm going to move it below the text layer. And now we can select the both layers. And I'm going to use the combination key Shift A to create one frame and apply auto layout on that. And this way you can see here that we have a frame and already the auto layout is working. I do this because I would like to have a control on the gap between the text layer. In this way I can kind of control the spacing even later on when I have final component which I'm going to use. In each step I would like to also rename the layers in order to make the organization of the file easier later on. So the frame number 1 that we built here, I'm going to rename it to text. We can also rename the first text layer to line 1. And the second one, we can change it to line maybe 2. So there are 2 main things that we need to consider when we want to make a responsive design. The first thing is the resizing behavior. So the size of the element should be responsive in terms of the relationship that the size of this element has when we start to resize the parent layer. And the other one is the position of that element. So the child layer, the position of the child layer should also react to changes of the parent layer. In this case, we have this carousel header or the main frame that we have as a parent layer, and then this one, the text frame that we built, is our child layer. And if you start to resize the parent layer, you can see that we kind of have some sort of a behavior that this text layer is fixed or pinned actually to the left and top corner, and we can actually see this effect or this properties with this dashed line that are blue. Actually, maybe you cannot see it at the moment, but there are some dashed line that shows where exactly we pinned this layer to, which we also can find it actually in the position properties or position panel here in the design section in the right side, which we call it constraints. So we can decide how or where this element should be pinned in terms of the position and compared to the parent layer. For now, it's pinned to the left side and to the top side of the parent frame. We can change this, of course. For example, I would like to have this behavior that this thing actually get pinned to the center. So I can change it. And even I can align this thing to the center of the parent layer by clicking on this option here. So if you get back now to the design, you can see if you start to resize the parent layer, the text is going to stay in the center. So the next point is that I am going to pin this element to the top of the parent frame. You can see it from the constraints menu here in the position section. It's already assigned to the top. I do this because I would like to also have a certain behavior for the text. I would like, if I change the side of the parent layer in this orientation, the text layer stays in its place. So that was one thing. I would like to move it a little bit upper, maybe, I don't know. And actually maybe I would like to have the product pack shot in the center. So let's first align the product pack shot in the center. And again, get sure that the constraints set in this way. So I would like to have it in the center, both in the vertical and in the horizontal orientation. So you can see it right now here in the menu. And then I can adjust the text based on the product pack shot that I have. So in this way, if now I start to resize the frame in the both directions, you can see that the both product pack shot and the text layer kind of has a proper behavior. So I'm not using auto layout here. I actually could also do that, but I would like to use the constraints here because I kind of have more freedom to design whatever I want. And that's actually a cool thing about a Figma. You don't have to use the auto layouts only to create kind of a relationship between the elements in your design to keep your design clean. The other thing that I'm going to do is about this element, the logo here. I would like to get sure that it's also behaving properly. Right now, it's actually pinned to the top of the parent frame. You also see the dash line here, which is actually not the case because it should pin to the bottom part or bottom line or bottom edge of the parent layer. So let's select it. And here I'm going to change the pin or the constraints to the bottom to get sure that it's kind of pinned to the bottom edge. And from the horizontal orientation, I would like to set it on the center. Let's also change the position to a little bit higher, maybe somewhere like this. And now this way, if we start to resize the frame, you can see that these three elements that we changed is going to kind of have a proper behavior, and the design is not going to get broken, at least from this perspective. Let's very quickly also fix the stuff that we have as a background. First of all, we have this circle, which is a kind of effect. Let me just hide it, and you can see that what I'm talking about, this effect. And plus, you can see that this price badge is actually within this group, which is not actually good. So I'm going to take the price badge on the top. What I would like to do here is to get sure that this frame is going to get resized or follow the resizing behavior of the parent layer. So I'm going to select the layer. I'm not going to apply auto layout, which also we can do. But in this case, I'm going to use again the constraints. So I'm going to get sure that I set the horizontal and vertical constraints on left and right and top and bottom. So now if I start to resize the frame, you can see that the effect frame is going to also get resized and things are looking decent. The next layer that we need to fix is this gradient that you can see. It's also not following the resizing behavior of the parent layer. So let's find it. Here I have a gradient layer, which also we can bring it over the effects layer. And we also can work on the renaming. I'm not sure even if we need to have this gradient in this way. We can directly apply it on the circle layers, but let's say if we want to have it in this way, we can keep it. But the thing we need to do is we need to get sure that in a horizontal direction, it's going to follow this resizing behavior of the parent layer. So again, I'm going to the position. In the constraints menu, I'm going to get sure that it's also pinned to the left and right side of the design. Plus, it should also pin to the bottom edge of the parent layer. So let's get back. Now, everything related to background, product pack shot, and the text layer is going to follow some certain rules, which is actually good. The last element that I would like to change is the badge here. Let's copy one version from it. And here I would like to first of all select this to text layer that I have and actually bring it out of this group. And here I'm going to apply one auto layer on this and group them together and change the name to, I don't know, text. And one more thing is that I would like to change this shape slightly. The only thing I need is this edge, this sharp edge at the end of it. I don't need the whole vector shape. So let's do this change, bring it here. And in this step, I'm going to select this 2 frame and group them and combine them together within the 1 frame and apply the auto layout. After I did this, before I go further, I would like to select this text frame that we made and add a background color to it and change the color to, sorry, not to this one, but to this blue. So in this way, we can see later on what I'm doing exactly. Select the frame number 1. I would like to rename it to something more proper. I will call it badge. And here I select the frame, the child frame, the text, and I'm going to get sure that the horizontal resizing behavior and vertical resizing behavior are in this way. So vertically it should fill the container, but horizontally it should hug the content. And I'm going to set the alignment in the center. So now let's resize, also add some padding, maybe, I don't know, 16 pixel. Sounds good. Then we can select the whole badge frame, and here we can reduce the gap to 0. So now if I start to change the text layer, you can see that the edge is going to follow the resizing changes within the other child layer. So there is some sort of relationship now. Let's take this badge, come back to the design that we had and paste it here. And using the constraint menu again, pin it to the left side and to the top. So now let's change the sizes and see if everything is looking good. You can see that everything looks fairly good, not so much problem actually. Let's delete the badge. What we can do in the next steps is to create some component for each element that we have here to have more control later on. For example, if we want to change the logo, we can have a list of all the logos that we might use in our marketing materials and then convert them to the component. Then we can change the logo here. Same goes for a product pack shot, which maybe I can do it right now to just show you how it works. Let's work a little bit further on the pack shot. I would like to create a component set of the pack shot that I might need in my design. So I collected a couple of design materials here. You can see that I have 3 bottle and can of the Pepsi. What I would like to do is I would like to first of all standardize the sizing of these elements and then convert them to the component set that I can use it in my design. So let's start by doing some sort of a resizing. I'm going to change all these images to a same exact size, for example 400 to 400. Let's do the same thing for in each of these image layers. Even to this one, I'm going to set it on 400 to 400. It depends on what kind of a behavior we would like to see from the image itself, but it's always good to have some sort of logic and regulation behind the sizes of your asset. Here we immediately see that there is a problem here. What we can do is we can select all these images, or actually I need to do it individually, but important thing is that you go to image setting here and change this item here from fill to fit. In this way, we will get sure that the image is always going to be shown up properly within the space that we kind of assign this image to. So let's get sure that everything else has the similar setting, because later on this is going to impact our design as well. So the frames are ready, or the images are ready. I'm going to select all the things and then come here on top, click on this three dot menu and create one component set. So here we basically have now one component set of different variants, which each one is showing different pack shots. So let's rename also the property name to pack shot. Let's get back to our design. We can open the assets panel here and find the product pack shot basically component and drag this into our design. Let's remove the older pack shot that we had, then align it to the center. Get sure that it has the setting that we had for the previous one. I'm going to also bring the layer up in the hierarchy because I would like to have this above everything else. And for the constraint setting, I'm going to set it on left and right. So I pin it to the left and right. It's really up to you how you want to do these things, but in this way, if I start to resize my layer in the vertical axis, I see that there are some spaces here that I can fill it. Then I can also resize my parent layer to the right and left to adjust also the size of the product pack shot. Let's try to change the product. Actually, I'm going to select the instance of the component that we have here and then change the pack shot to other product that we have. This is already working very cool. We can do also the same thing for the badge actually. Let me maybe do it very quickly. So I'm going to select this badge. Make multiple copies of it. I'm going to select every and each of this. Now that we have all the different colors, I'm going to select these badges, come back again to the menu here, and oh sorry, not this one, here, and create a component set again. So we have now another component, which is the badge, and with properties of changing the colors, I'm going to rename it to color actually, and we are done. Let's go to asset panel, find out the badge that we have and make one instances and copy it within our design. So I'm going to position it wherever I would like to have it. Just get sure again that you pin it to the left and top. Other than that, everything else is ready. We are fine actually. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this design that we have here and convert this to component as well. The reason I'm doing this is that I would like to create one component that I can control the overall design properties within it. And if I use it somewhere else, then if I change something here, automatically I will get the changes everywhere else in my design file if I use it. For example, imagine that this is one copy of this component and we are having it somewhere else. If I change the position of the pack shot, you can see that this change is applied also on the instance. So it gives me more power and control on maintaining my file. The other thing that I would like to have, and that's the reason that I have this component, is to add some nesting properties. Let me show you what I mean. So if you come here, this plus here, you can create nested instances. In this way, in this window, we can nest the properties that exist within the child layer within this component. Now, if you have a copy and one instance of the parent design that we had, here in the properties panel, you can directly see the properties that we had for the badge and the pack shot itself. This means that if you, for example, want to have a different color of the badge, you can directly change it here, you can change the pack shot as well. So you have more control and whatsoever to kind of play around with this design, and it's much easier to control the elements if you would like to reuse the same thing for different product. For example, if you just want to change the other thing that we can do is, of course, if we need different layout type, like let's say, I don't know, if we'd like to have a horizontal one, we can create easily a different variants for this header component that we made in the first place, and then adjust the layout easily. So I'm going to do this very quickly, but the overall idea is the same, and you, I guess, are familiar with it. So let's resize it, and then I'm going to reposition the stuff and get sure this stuff or the constraints are set up in a proper way. Let's get sure that's in the center. I would like to put the actually pack shot really in the center. Maybe we can also even resize this elements, and I'm going to do the same thing for the logo as well. So it's going to be pinned to the right side. Let's also change the name to the value of this properties to H instance of the horizontal, and V for the vertical. We can also change the property names to, I don't know, we can say order. And if we get back to our examples, to our instances, if we just make a copy here and then change this variance here to H, automatically we will have now the horizontal orientation of the same banners. So you can see that how easily we can adjust the stuff. We can also do the same thing with the background. So I'm going to make two more. Variants from the same component, and I'm going to use these two variants later on for changing the background. So I'm going to assign different background for these two. Then I'm going to create a new properties. Let's put the properties default value to blue. And for the second variant, I'm going to pick up this background as a background color, get back to my design, and here I'm going to select the layers that has the background color or background style, or both of them actually, and then copy this frame, this style there as well. So now in the second variant, we kind of have a red background. I can also change actually the styling of the circles that we have here. Let's just stop here. You can play around later more. And I guess that's it. Maybe we can also change the color of the text to something more reddish or pinkish. Let's get back to our instances. We can easily select all these examples and then make a copy. And here from our properties panel, oh, sorry, okay, I forgot to assign different values. So for the background, I would like to call the value for this variance to red. And then if I go back again here to the one that I duplicate, I can change the value to red. You can see that it's much easier to adjust stuff, and the resizing behavior is also working decently. I'm not saying they're the best, but still things are not gonna get broken heavily. Let me bring the example that we had at the beginning. So this was like the one in the left side is the example that we had at the beginning, and the one in the right side is the one that we made. And if I select both and I start to resize it, you can see that how the stuff are going to behave and how things are getting broken easily actually in the first version, and in the right one we have more decent look and feel. Plus we can change the stuff in a way that we want. So for example, I don't know, we can change the badge, we can change the product to the one that we want. This was just one example that how we can use the features that we have within a Figma to create the materials that we are making for the marketing purposes in a smarter way. I could use auto layout, for example, in more practical way. I didn't use it to create more dynamic and responsive layout That's one option. We can also use variables to create responsive behavior for our layout, for the handling the colors and different color palettes and everything else. So there are different ways to create marketing materials in a way that are more usable or reusable, better to say, which make our system more scalable. So it doesn't matter if we are designing marketing materials or layout for our web pages or digital products. It's very, very helpful if we use the features within Figma to create those stuff in the right way. However, I know that the AI is kicking in these days and creating such marketing materials are much easier. But for now, maybe for next few months, this kind of approaches is still are very useful for the marketing teams and everybody else who is dealing with this kind of project. And that was it. Hope you liked this video and you learned something new. If it was so, don't forget to smash the subscribe button right now. Like this video and share it with the other designers. Let's learn together and see you in the next video. Pretty cool, just show me the way.